Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. As you can see behind me, we have a trailer full of IBC totes. I've got a pretty good supplier where I can pick these things up. In the last couple days, I've actually gone and gotten 2 or 3 trailer fulls like this. Now, sitting on the trailer right now, I have 26. And like I said, I've made about 3 trips over there. So 2.5 loads. I think I ended up picking in somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or 70 new IBC totes. Obviously, with having the Eastamade Evo firewood processor here, I can fill these things very quickly. I was all out of totes until I just picked up some more. So we're gonna go ahead and get these things unloaded and make some more firewood. Well, no sooner did I get the trailer unloaded with those 26 IBC totes, the guy called me and said he had 15 more for me. And I'll tell you what, when opportunity knocks, you got to answer the door, and having a truck and trailer like this lets you open a lot of doors. I can't tell you how many times somebody has called me and said, hey, they got something they want to get rid of and they need it gone today. Otherwise, they're going to burn it, cut it up, do whatever with it. And by having a truck and trailer here on site, at a moment's notice, I can pack up and go and get it. Another good example is with the dump trailer. A neighbor of mine had probably 15 maple logs cut down, and they were all nice firewood processor poles, and he wanted them gone. And at a moment's notice, I packed up, went over there and made 3 or 4 trips, brought all those logs home. So there's a lot to be said for having this equipment on hand and not having to try to scramble at the last minute to try to find a buddy to borrow a trailer from or go rent one or something like that. It's awfully nice having it here on the property ready to go when I need it. So now that we're done trucking totes for the day, we're gonna get back on making some firewood, but it did kind of have me curious, since we just picked up so many totes, how many we had that were full versus how many we have that are empty. So I did a real quick tally. We have 40 IBC totes inside the building here that are all stacked. This is kind of the premium wood. And then if you look out in the drying yard out there, we have 45 totes that are just loose thrown drying. That'll be for bulk. And then out of all the totes that we just picked up, you can see I've got some still on the trailer, some that are stacked over there, some that are stacked there, and I've got a handful that are still stacked over there. We have a total of 75 totes that still need to be filled. And if you count the total that we have full, we have about 85 that are full. So we're about halfway there. We need to go ahead and start making some wood. All right, so we made another 6 IBC totes of wood, bringing our grand total to, I think, 91. I think we said we had 85 at the start of today, and now we're up to 91 with the 6 we just made. I think I've got a pretty slick setup here. There is still some room for improvement, but, you know, all of the sawdust blowings, they come off here. We've got our tractor bucket park here, and if you caught in one of our last videos, we welded on an extra plate here to make this mini skid steer quick attach, because I'd obviously never be able to get the tractor in here and turn to pick that bucket up, but with the mini skid I can. So all of the wood chips, that's just to give you an idea. It really doesn't create that many wood chips, but if you don't keep up with it, that'll make a big pile in a hurry. So that was off of 6 IBC totes full. That's all the more wood chips it filled up. I think the biggest thorn in my side with this whole process is how I'm catching all the scraps that come off of this Yappa barrel screener. The screener, actually, I've got it dialed in pretty well that what's going into the baskets is fairly clean, but the part that is annoying is emptying out this Ultratech dump trailer. I've mentioned before that this does dump, however, the dump angle is not quite steep enough, and it's not high enough up off the ground because that axle is too far forward. So when you tip it up, the bottom of the trailer is basically on the ground. So it does dump. However, the wood has nowhere to fall out because that's on the ground. So you just tip it up and the wood kind of stays in there, and you have to rake it out by hand. So if anybody has any good suggestions on an alternative product that you could either make or buy to park underneath this thing, that you could just come in, pick it up, take it over to the pile over there and dump it. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is some kind of dump hopper, you know, pallet fork mounted dump hopper or something like that. But this is the one area that could be improved on, is how to not necessarily catch, because this does a good job of catching the material and keeping this area clean. It's just, this is my least favorite part of the whole process, is pulling this out, going and dumping it, and bringing it back in here. It's just a lot of on and off and manual labor. It'd be nice to come pick something up, go dump it, and bring it back. And yeah, the other problem that we're running into is, obviously, I've mentioned this before, a lot of our logs are 2 years old. They were harvested off our own property, and I'm just now getting to them. And so we're making a lot more scrap than we would be if we were just, you know, if we had fresh green logs, because I've mentioned that the outer edges of our logs are starting to get a little punky, and so when they're running through the wedge, the outside of the logs are just kind of blowing apart and exploding into crumbs. So I'll be curious to see how much less scrap we make once we have good, fresh, clean logs. But this dump trailer was empty when we first started, so there's how much scrap we created off of 6 IBC totes of finished product, and there's the amount of scrap that's left behind. I think that will be significantly less when we get some green logs in here. Anyways, guys, that's going to about wrap this one up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.